Welcome you all to this Cryo-EM course again. Last class we discussed about that how do we add two waves together and then it is going to affect our amplitude, and vector addition we are doing it based on the angle or the phase difference between those waves, and we can use the same theory for multiple waves together. So, now first thing first, we have to see that last class also I discussed about there is a wave when they are moving. If there is a small phase difference at initial stage, there will be not too much effect, but the later stage if the wave propagates and it is going to affect, then at a certain point it will come, the amplitude will be first wave and the second wave will be completely different. Let us take a look what kind of difference we can see it. So, here we have to go long way, so we can draw that wave properly. So, now here one wave is there. This wave propagates in this direction. So, you can constantly see there is a up and down, up and down. Now, there is a second wave. The second wave, there is a small phase difference between the first wave and the second wave. So, here the wave is following this pattern. So, gradually you can see there is a change between their position. So, initial phase you can see they are just overlapping each other. If you just consider this one, consider this one, they are very close to each other, there is not too much difference. But if we just go to the other, so here you can see there is they are close, but here this and this are bit opposite. Here these two are close, but same time these two are opposite. If we keep going on like that, if we keep going on like that, so even this blue one, if we just draw like that, and red one, if keep going on, you can see after a certain time there is a both the waves, so this blue and red, and they are completely opposite to each other. So, what will happen in this particular case, you can see a boost in amplitude. So, here I will show you a PPT that will be very uniform drawing, because without scale and hand, if we just draw that wave will not go in a uniform way. So, in slide that will be much more clear. I will come back to that in the later stage. So, here if we just look at this wave, what will happen? Here it will boost the amplitude, here it will boost the amplitude, here it will boost the amplitude. And in certain cases gradually you can see there is a change in the amplitude, and amplitude will go down, it will not go up anymore. So, here if you just want to draw that amplitude here, how it will look like, let us take a look. So, if we draw that, this will be bigger, this will be also bigger, then slowly it will go down, here it will be down, here they are completely opposite. So, you can see there is a uniform pattern, but that is not continuously uniform, that in amplitude wise it will be not same all the time. Let us take a look. If you go to the PPT, we can see in a much better way. So, let us go here, and so here as I mentioned that there is a two wave, right. So, one is this wave, you can see it is a uniform way it is going. So, this is the way it is going, And the next wave, if you just consider that okay, this dotted line or that this black line, so this is the second wave. So in these two cases you can see there is a little bit phase difference. So they are not in a same phase. So there is a phase difference, and when this wave both the waves propagates in this particular direction, after a certain time you can see that okay, initial phase they are merged together and there is a boost in the amplitude. But if you go further, if you just look at in this particular position where if you look at in this particular position, you can see these waves are completely opposite with each other. So that means they are neutralizing each other completely. So if you just consider the amplitude of those, it is almost near to 0. But here the amplitude it is going to boost. Same thing, if we just go gradually in this direction, you can see it now, this black wave and this dotted wave, they are almost in same position, but they are not very close to each other. So you will get an amplitude high, but it will be not that high. But if you just consider this particular wave or this particular wave, both the dotted wave and the black wave, they are almost merged with each other. So then definitely it is going to boost their amplitude here. Exactly same thing is true for here, and the maximum amplitude you will get it here because both the waves are completely merged with together. But then again, if you go gradually, you can see the same phenomenon here where they are basically opposite with each other and they are going to cancel each other. So here you can see they are completely opposite with each other and they are going to cancel their amplitude. Same thing is true for this one also, they are going to cancel their amplitude. But here they are going to boost that amplitude. Now if you look at here from this particular, so what you can see, from this particular wave, the resultant wave is this one, and you can see here that when there is a two waves are completely merged together, the dotted wave and the black wave merged together, they are giving a very high amplitude in this particular zone. And we are getting the maximum amplitude height here, but gradually if we go this direction or if you go this direction where the amplitude is opposite, like this particular wave or this particular wave, when amplitudes are completely opposite, you can see that here it is almost near 0. And same phenomenon you can see it here where amplitude is just cancelling each other and we are getting amplitude is almost near 0. And then gradually it is increasing the amplitude and we are getting a higher amplitude here. Now when there is a two waves are converged or diverged and they are giving this kinds of image, if there is a multiple waves are coming together, it will be always giving us a complicated image. It will be not a very simple wave. So that two waves are coming together and it will always give a high amplitude or low amplitude. When there is a two waves converge, most of the time they will give this kind of complicated pattern. That will be clear further. That okay, there is another example. There is here we are considering only two waves and all the cases those are periodic form, there is no change. Now there is a two wave, one wave we are considering that okay, one wave starting from this and finished here and the wavelength is 1, and the second wave we are considering this is the second wave, that blue wave will be the second wave. This is the second wave and their wavelength is this one, that we are considering that lambda 2. So you can see not only that there is a amplitude difference between red wave and the blue wave, as well as there is a phase difference also, and then wavelength is also different. So now if there is a phase difference and amplitude difference, and if we want to combine them together, we will get this kind of wave, resultant wave, this black wave. This is our resultant wave. Now point is, the first peak, if we just consider that red wave and the blue wave, they are almost very close to each other. So that is the reason this amplitude is much higher. But if we go further, if we just move with a blue wave and the red wave, what is going to happen? You can see it in this particular case, that red, when you are considering this red, we can see red is going in this direction, where the blue is continuously going, and you can see in this particular point red and blue amplitude is completely opposite with each other. Then in this situation, definitely it is going to affect the total amplitude. Here you can see amplitude is much lower, and it is giving us a complicated image. So in this particular case, you can see that okay, there is a two wave, that blue wave and the red wave, they are converged in a different way and giving us a different pattern of images. So this pattern will be something, a complicated pattern. So it is going like that. So something like that. So here you can see there is a combination of these two wave, it is giving us a complicated image form. So this complicated image form, why we are interested about this complicated image form? That is the most important part now, that we are getting a complicated image or complicated wave function. This complicated wave function will store some point in the microscope when you will record those information. So now if 2, 3, 4, 5 waves are coming together and giving us this complicated waveform, the opposite is also true. If we have a complicated waveform, we can split them into single sine wave or cosine wave. So far what we did, we use single sine wave or cosine wave, we merge them together and we discuss about that, we are getting a complicated image. So last example was that same, that okay, there is a pattern. If I just go here, you can see there is a very simple sine wave, there is a 2 sine wave, very simple sine wave, but resultant wave of this one, it is a complicated wave. So some point the amplitude is increasing drastically, and some point amplitude is near 0, and then again amplitude is increasing and going to maximum, and then again going towards 0. So here you can see only this 2 wave, if it can give this kind of wave function, we can do the vice versa also, that we can take this complicated wave and we can split them into single sine or cosine wave. So we can, that means that if there is a complicated sine wave, we can decompose them in a much simpler form. Let us take a look how we can decompose a wave. Okay, so here that is exactly I was talking about. So here I will just use this blue color. Here you have a complicated wave function. Okay, this wave function is going in this direction, and this function is a periodic function. It is going all the way, and this is a periodic function. Now this wave, how this wave we can get this kind of wave. So here the lambda means the one full wavelength, we can consider this is the lambda. Now as I mentioned previously, if we can get a complicated wave function, and this complicated wave function is made by either sine or cosine curve together. If that is true, we can decompose them. So, we can take the complicated wave function and go to the simpler wave function. Here we are doing the same thing. This wave I want to split it. Easiest form that okay. So, we will take a wave something like that and decompose it. The first wave I will consider. So, that wave it will start like that. Okay, but definitely this wave cannot satisfy this particular wave, because here you can see there is an increase of the amplitude here and there is a decrease in the amplitude there. Now, if we add one more wave with this one, then probably it can increase the amplitude here and decrease the amplitude here. So, that is the reason we selected the second wave and we are adding this particular wave here. When we added this particular wave, what is happened here? Here there is a decrease in the amplitude, but increase in the amplitude in this particular position when we add these two waves. But again in this particular position it is pushing down, the amplitude is decreasing. Now, if you come here, you can, if you just combine these two waves, you can get a much better features. So, something like that. So, there will be a decrease in the wave function, then there will be a bump, then again there is a decrease, then there will be a bump. So, something like that. So, here you can see there is a two bump is there, but here we are getting only one bump if we just add these two wave, this wave function, this and this. Now, if we have a choice and add the third wave. So, third wave I will select this one and I will add this third wave. When I will add this third wave, we can see that we can represent this three wave together. We can boost this particular position again. Here we can boost this, increase the amplitude. So, adding this three wave, what we can get? There is a bump and then there will be a tube and then there will be a decrease and we will go on like that. So, after adding this three wave, we will get this the resultant wave. Now, if we can add more and more and more wave, so like the fourth, fifth and sixth, we can represent this wave exactly. Now, what we are adding here? We are basically, so if we just take this wave and flip that wave on top of that. So, here I have these waves are going, I am just flipping on the screen. If we flip it, what we can see? You can see the amplitude here. So, again as I mentioned that this is a complicated wave function, this one is the complicated wave function, but when we will split one by one, we will only consider their amplitude here. So, most of the amplitude, and then we will plot those amplitude here. So, first amplitude, second amplitude and third. So, individual wave, and then we will represent this wave. So, this is called the decomposition of any wave, and we are representing those things based on their amplitude. So, amplitude means there will be some kind of signal, so very bright spot we can see it. So, these waves propagates and we are getting different kind of amplitude. That amplitude we are plotting. This is the first wave, this is the second wave, this is the third wave amplitude, then fourth and fifth. So, here those wave function are coming together, all merged together and giving us an complicated function, but if we just decompose them, we will only get the amplitude information that is going to store there. Basically, in the diffraction pattern, whatever we are recording this informations. there is a one more example. So, this example we will discuss and then we will finish this part. So, there is again a complicated function. So, you can see this is a periodic function and it is going in this way. So, where you can see there is a very high amplitude is very high, then suddenly there is a drop in the amplitude and again the amplitude is going high. So, if I have only one choice and if I have to represent this wave, how I can represent this wave? So, easiest way, so I will just use a straight line to represent that wave. Okay, the same amplitude I am considering. So, I can use that A0 by 2 to represent that wave. If I have more and more choice to split that wave, the second wave I want to combine is this one with the second wave like this form. So, now you can see this wave, we can represent that A1 cos kx, where A1 is the amplitude and cos kx that we discussed multiple times. Now, if I have a second choice, so I will add a sine wave. So, this sine wave, it will start from here and it will go all the way to add. So, now we can consider that this will be the B is the amplitude and then sine kx. So, now in this particular case I am adding three waves together. One is that there is a A0 by 2, then A1 cos kx, then B1 sine kx. Then if I have a more and more option, and you can see that I can add more different types of wave where the frequency is changing, that oscillation is increasing. Here you can see only one oscillation of that wave, but here also you can see only one oscillation, so kx, but here you can see there is a two oscillation of this wave. So, this two oscillation, that is why we are using k cos 2 kx. Now, if I have one more wave to select, so here you can see that I am using a sine wave to add that. So, that is come B2 sine kx. Now, if I can add one more wave, so here I am just increasing the frequency again. So, here that is coming k3x. So, you can see that any kind of complicated wave function, we can decompose with a sine and cosine curve, nothing else is required. So, that is called the decomposition. So, the Fourier decomposition, that is. So, we are not going to discuss about Fourier transform of the images, or you just understand how a from 2, 3, 4 multiple sine or cosine curve give you a complicated wave function. Now, if you have a complicated wave function, how you can simplify them and how you can get a very simple cosine or sine wave function. So, if we get this one, then we can add them together and you can get the images. So, last one I told that we are considering only the amplitude, here we are considering the amplitude. So, here you can see the amplitude is changing, amplitude is not fixed for all the wave, as well as what is changing the frequency. The frequency, it will help us at what position we will get that spot. The spot will be only one oscillation or 5 oscillation or 10 oscillation. Based on that, we have to plot those function in our diffraction plot. So, that we are going to discuss in the next class. So, today's this particular class I will just complete it here. Next class we are discuss this in further details, how we can use this decomposition, Fourier decomposition of any complicated wave, and how we can represent these things in a diffraction pattern, and how we can correlate this particular incident with our actual imaging system, that where we can get the diffraction pattern and how we can get that images. So, this is the basic part of image formation that will help us in the near future to understand how we are getting images in any microscope. Thank you all for your attention. Next class we will discuss more about those topics.